was the cleverest escape in the prison's 30 years. The men who broke out of Alcatraz with a spoon. Aerial view of Alcatraz Island in January 1932. The island was used as a maximum security federal prison from 1934 to 1963. In its heyday, it was the ultimate maximum security prison. In the 1930s, Alcatraz was already a forbidding place, surrounded by the cold, rough waters of the Pacific. The redesign included tougher iron bars, a series of strategically positioned guard towers, and strict rules, including a dozen checks a day of the prisoners. Escape seemed near impossible. Despite the odds, from 1934 until the prison was closed in 1963, 36 men tried 14 separate escapes. Nearly all were caught or didn't survive the attempt. The fate of 3 particular inmates, however, remains a mystery to this day. Here is their story. In the early hours of June 12, 1962, 3 inmates at Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary, a maximum security prison on a remote island in San Francisco Bay, pulled off a daring escape. John and Clarence Anglin and Frank Morris had meticulously planned their escape for months, using smuggled tools and materials to create a makeshift raft and a ladder. Assigned to adjoining cells, they began hatching a plan to escape. Morris, known for his intelligence, took the lead in the planning. They were aided by another inmate, Alan West. All the men knew each other from previous stints in prisons together, and since they had adjoining jail cells, they were able to speak to each other at night. With Morris taking the lead, the 4 prisoners began to concoct an elaborate and audacious plan to escape. Over a period of several months, the men chiseled away at the salt-damaged concrete around the air vent under their sinks. Using metal spoons, purloined from the dining hall, a drill made from a vacuum cleaner motor, and discarded saw blades, they dug through to an unguarded utility corridor. To mask the noise of the drill, Morris would play his accordion during the daily hour set aside when music was played to the prisoners. Once they had created a hole large enough to crawl through to the corridor, they climbed up to the empty top level of the cell block and set up a secret workshop. To hide the cell wall holes, they fashioned fake papier-mâché grills from prison library magazines. Once they were in their workshop, they set about constructing a 6-by-14-foot makeshift rubber raft and life vests made from more than 50 stolen raincoats. But while they worked, they needed to conceal their absence from the guards who periodically made nighttime checks. So they sculpted papier-mâché versions of their heads from soap, toothpaste, and toilet paper. To make them look more realistic, they used real hair from the prison barbershop floor and painted them in flesh tones using stolen art supplies. These they would then place in their beds with bundles of clothes and towels under their blankets in the shape of their bodies to make it look like they were asleep. Finally, on the night of the 11th of June, 1962, they were ready to put their ingenious plan into motion. Leaving the dummy heads in their beds to fool the guards, Morris and the 2 Anglin brothers crawled out through the holes on the cell walls. West's escape was scuppered when he was unable to get out of his cell in time, so the others left without him. They climbed up to the cell house roof, ran across it carrying their makeshift boat. In sight of the guard tower, shimmied down an outside drain pipe, crossed the prison yard, scaled 2 successive 12-foot barbed wire fences, and scrambled down a steep embankment to the northeastern shore of the island. On June 12th, the routine early morning bed check turned out to be anything but. 3 convicts were not in their cells: John Anglin, his brother Clarence, and Frank Morris. And the guard raised the alarm, and the warden in charge promptly notified state and federal authorities as well as the U.S. military. An intensive manhunt began. Despite a massive search, the inmates were never found. On the 14th of June, the Coast Guard found one of the prisoners' paddles. The same day, workers found a packet of the Anglin's personal effects sealed in rubber. 7 days later, some remnants of the raft were washed up near the Golden Gate Bridge, and the following day, one of the homemade life vests was discovered. But the 3 fugitives were never seen again. The fate of the 3 men remains a mystery, fueling countless theories and speculations. Although the prisoners escaped the prison, the authorities concluded they must have perished in treacherous waters attempting to leave the island. That was certainly the view of prison warden Richard Willard when the BBC interviewed him in 1964. Alcatraz prison shut down in 1963, a year after the men's escape. As for the 3 escapees, despite no bodies ever being found in the bay, in 1979 they were declared legally dead. The FBI closed its case and turned over responsibility to the U.S. Marshals Service. But speculation about their fate has never waned. In 2018, San Francisco police revealed they had been sent a mysterious letter 5 years earlier from someone claiming to be John Anglin. The letter read, "I escaped from Alcatraz in June 1962. Yes, we all made it that night, but barely." The letter maintained that the men had lived on in secret, with Frank Morris dying in October 2005 and Clarence Anglin in 2008. The letter's author said he now wanted to negotiate his surrender in exchange for cancer treatment. The FBI assessed the letter but were unable to verify if it was authentic or not. The case is still open for the U.S. Marshals Service. As recently as 2022, it released updated pictures of what the 3 missing Alcatraz prisoners might look like now, while appealing for any information about them. What do you think about this escape? Did they make it across the bay, get to Angel Island, and then cross Raccoon Strait into Marin County as planned, or did the wind and waves get the better of them?